Hello, Sophia. Hi.
Hello, Sandra. So happy to be with you.
Yeah, lovely to see you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
Thank
How have
you.
you been? I know it's been a busy period for you.
Yes, very busy. A
Oh.
lot of volunteer work and working in my community right now, and then being a mom and all that kind of stuff. So it's a busy time for sure.
Let's get more into details if you'd like in a minute. Just before we go there, Sophia,
Yeah.
who is Sophia? If you can introduce yourself to the group, please.
Sophia is, I would say, if I have to define myself, I'm very interested in truth and being fair, and helping. My thing is to leave anything better than I found it. So a lot of my work has to do with just making things more balanced and fair in different ways. And I volunteer a lot. I believe in doing the work that nobody else wants to do, because it needs to be done. And a lot of times there's no budget, but it still needs to be done. So often you will find me there. That's what I do, I guess.
And thank you for that work. That's such an important work. And I think more people, I know that a lot of people are involved in volunteering, but they're not talking enough about it, really, because this is so noble. And would you like to tell us a bit more about what specifically do you volunteer in? What is the work you do?
Okay, well, I've done a lot of different kinds. Some basic stuff like going to the schools and helping in the classrooms and making photocopies and helping, teacher support. I was also the chair of the Human Services Board for Mesa, Arizona. It was actually during 2010, which was a real need for human services because that's when our economy tanked, but a lot of people needed help, but there wasn't money. So there was this whole how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to help feed people and get them in houses and stuff like that? So I chaired that for 2 years. And what was fun about that was the budget that we proposed actually got accepted as is for 2 years, which is a big deal. So that was fun. It was a challenge for sure. Now I'm working with fair housing and making sure there's affordable housing for everybody. And I might be on the government affairs board, which helps with realtors. We're helping with different things about housing and making sure that people can afford houses and keeping housing affordable and making sure everybody's got one. So that's all tied in with different things. And then the government affairs is more about making different laws that have to do with real estate. So I'm really excited about it, actually. That's I don't know. And then I do a lot of just one hit days. I do different days of fundraisers. And one thing I did was working with the NFL with Brian Urlacher, which I'll probably be doing again in August. And that's helping NFL players but not the ones that but the ones that are lesser known, but they got hurt. And it helps them get medical care because sometimes they have expensive injuries, and they need help with that. So just all that kind of stuff. It depends on the day. I've helped plant trees, and I've helped clean neighborhoods, and I've helped protest foreclosures back when our country was going through that foreclosure crisis. So a lot, a lot over the years. Yeah.
A lot. So what would you say are main learnings maybe from that volunteering experience so far for you?
That money doesn't define value and money doesn't define importance. A lot of things that people get paid a lot for aren't as important as the things that people don't pay for but need to have done. And the thing I would tell everybody out there is that if it's not getting done, you need to do it. I think a lot of people look around themselves and they want something done, but they want somebody else to do it. And I think you need to do it, and also take some slack off of the people that are taking the hit for doing it, because sometimes it puts you in a position of not being able to get paid or not get a job because people find you controversial. So it depends on what kind of work you're doing. But if it was spread out amongst more people, it would be easier on everybody and more would get done. So if you're sitting there upset about how your particular neighborhood or community is, and you're not doing anything about it, or at least talking to the people in charge about it, then you're part of the problem. So that's how I see it. I don't know. You asked me, so I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it not controversial here, but that is it. A lot of people are upset about, or they're not satisfied with their communities, but they're also not doing anything about it, or they're trying to stay so protected so that they're okay, that they allow things to continue in an abusive way. So, and also in their workplaces as well. It's like, if you're quiet about abuse, then you are part of the problem. That's what I think about my volunteer. That's what I've learned. You know, it's like, there's people that they're in charge, but not everybody should be, that is. So if we don't say anything and we don't do anything, then it continues. Yeah. That's kind of like, and even taking, doing photocopies for teachers, it just shows like how unsupported some of the most important aspects of our society are. We should support them more in some way. If not with paid people, then get out there and do your bit, do your part, whatever that is. And it doesn't, like I said, like sometimes it can be just one day. But one time I went on vacation to New Orleans, and I worked a day at their for Habitat for Humanity. I worked for Habitat for Humanity for one day. So sometimes you can like go on a vacation and do something in an area that needs more help, and then help them, and then you're doing your vacation, but you're also giving back to society. So yeah, I don't know if that was your question or not, but that's what I've learned over time.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I mean, it sounds very familiar, obviously, what you're saying, right? Like, in terms of many people, I see it also through work and in general, right? Like, a lot of people complain about certain things, right, and about their own lives, but then when it comes to really taking action and doing something about it, they're like, no, I didn't say anything. So do you
that's what I'm saying. You're right.
Do you think that's like has to do with taking responsibility and ownership, or do you think there's something else behind that?
Well, I think a lot of people are scared, and you have a right. I get it. You want to keep yourself safe, and I understand that, but it makes it more unsafe for the people that do stand up, because because what everybody wants is pretty much the same, but only a few people are talking about it, right? So it's easy to target those people. And let's use a work environment. Yeah. Like, the union people that are talking for the union, right? It's easy to demonize them, even though they're taking the heat for something that literally everybody wants. But the other people kind of take a step back and let them handle it, right? Yeah. And they don't speak up. So then those people are usually put through different, levels of pressure and discomfort and then everybody else benefits. You know what I'm saying? So I understand what I'm trying to say is, I think it's because people are scared, and because they learn to be conformist, and they learn to be good kids and don't rock the boat and make your money and go home and complain to your friends and come back and complain some more, to your coworkers, but don't do anything. Yeah. And that's kind of why a lot of abuse is able to perpetuate, because they know that you're not going to say anything about it, so, and it kind of, I'm sorry, in this moment, I am a little, there are people that are kind of frustrated with what we feel are like the freeloaders, the people that benefit, but they don't feel any of the cost for it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to keep it, but I mean, but yeah, it's in a workplace, it's in a family, it's in a, the one that goes, the family member that confronts the family member that makes everybody else uncomfortable, and they get the heat, but everybody else kind of steps back and lets them do it, and take the heat. It's I don't want to use the word cowardice per se, but it's just, some people just don't have that bravery, to like step up and take it. And I get it. I'm not saying it's fun, but it's necessary. Yeah. So
it takes a lot of self-belief and courage to really stand up, right? To really stay true to yourself. And I think it also takes a lot of work to build yourself up to the point where you're like, I really don't care about what will they think, because they know this is the right thing to do, right?
Right. Or something just so bad happens to you that
Yeah.
you finally are like, I don't want this to happen to anybody anymore. And that becomes more important than what's going to happen to you. And I think the people who are in activism or in advocacy for communities or are that kind of a person, like something happened to them that they decided this should never happen to anyone ever again. And not everybody gets there. And it's a dark place. You know, I'm not saying it, because I was talking to somebody about it yesterday on LinkedIn that like we were talking about the people that are really willing to look at the ugly truth of what is really real, and those that prefer to stay in a everybody, let's be kind to each other. We're all kind. Let's be kind. We're kind. Let's not say those not kind words, you know, and that kind of thing. And I'm all for being kind. I would love to be kind, but I can't be kind when the actions behind it are not kind. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to be sometimes kindness doesn't look kind.
Yeah, it's fake even, you know, it might be even fake.
It is, yeah, self-serving, because you're putting off your consequences and your icky feelings, you know, like, oh, I don't want to feel icky like that. Yeah. But you're, by doing that, you're not being kind, because you're allowing other things to happen. Because if ever, you know, there's something called the spiral of silence, okay, and it was by a social scientist that went through the whole World War II thing, the Nazi thing. And so she was a communication specialist, and she was reviewing what happened with that. She's like, how did my country do this? You know, they're just, it's not the country I knew. And she found out that the spiral of silence is when they silence the voices of people who are speaking against something and saying that it's wrong, so that people feel like everybody believes that this is all right. So I guess I'm wrong, right? That's why if you do see something, you should say something, because nobody has there's very few people who have the courage to be the first one to say something. But once one person says something, then there's a lot of people that have the courage to agree with that person. Yeah. Right. So I learned that. I mean, and again, you can take that to a work environment, you can take that to a family, you can take that to a community, you can take that to whatever. But, you know, when everyone is silent, then it's a consent. It's like, yeah, I guess it's okay. And, you know, they're like, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm not seeing things correctly, because if I was seeing it, you know, if everybody's seeing it the way I was, they'd be saying something, right? So she said spiral of silence is so important, because that is what allowed the things to happen. You know, because people got quiet, and then everybody thought, oh, I guess this is what we should be doing, you know. So it's just something I'd like everyone to consider just in their lives, because I thought that was the most important thing I've learned so far. Yeah, and
that can be very much applied also in today's world when looking into media, right? And what information is being shared with us, right?
Right.
They I would dare to even say manipulate a lot of information, and people kind of move, you know, like, don't believe everything you read and see. Like, absolutely not, right? Yes.
And I just think it's just really important, especially right now, because if we want to go to a world that's more heart-based, and a world that's more egalitarian, and a world that, especially because as we face the climate, whether you want to believe it's man-made or not, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we're facing, whatever you want to say caused it, we're going to face it, right? And if we were doing it in a very if we don't deal with it, if we're silent about it, we're going to have to deal with it in a chaotic way, because we didn't deal with it, you know what I mean? And we're quiet, and we were safe, and we were whatever, but the consequences are still going to happen. It's just going to be more chaotic because we didn't plan for it. But if we, and just in some way, whatever way you can, embrace it, and then we do this in a more systematic and planned fashion, you know, then it's just better for everybody, you know. So because you brought up media, and that's kind of like what's driving media, right? So we don't have to have it be this chaotic is all I'm saying. But if we go into denial mode, And then we come out when the crisis is in our face, and then it's going to be way harder. So
yeah.
I've studied this a lot. This is not something that I just pulled out of my head. This is something I think about daily, all day, pretty much. So I feel like I have to say that, but take it or leave it. Everybody's got their own journey, right? I don't control anyone else's journey.
Yes.
And that's been a very strong lesson I've been going through right now. Like, this is your journey. This is my journey. This is someone else's journey. And this is my responsibility, and gotta just leave the rest up to, you know, everybody else. But by not saying anything, then you don't know. So now you know. Do what you want with it. Yeah, right. So
absolutely. And it's extremely important to accept that each of us is on their own journey. And, you know, like, if I may think a bit back, what comes up for me as you're saying that it is hard, or it was hard back then, you know, especially as I'm a coach, right, to accept that you cannot help everyone, right?
Correct.
Because the most basic thing, again, we are each on our own journey. And if the person doesn't want to be helped, and that person doesn't want to work on themselves, you cannot, like, you can reach them just, you know, as much.
Right.
You cannot help them change their life. Right.
And that's the hardest thing, right? When you're sitting there and like you have the answer, like you're looking at them and you're like, ooh, I see it. Because like it's way easier to see it in someone else than it is in yourself.
Absolutely.
But if they don't ask you for help, if they're not asking, they're not going to hear you. And that is the hardest. That is the hardest. Because like if you're not open to an answer, like legitimately open, not only to the answer, but to do the work, then nobody else can do that for you. And the other thing too is like internalizing your power, right? So many people are waiting for other people to fix their stuff. Their stuff. Their stuff. They're fixing, like, you fix it, right? And then it's like, no, but I can't do this because you don't respect me, and I can't do this because you, the gatekeeper, didn't give me permission to, and you needed to acknowledge me and validate me and make me okay. It's like, hey, here's a secret. You could just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not paying attention. And both like the good and the bad about nobody caring about you. Like nobody cares about you. Hate to break it. This is new information for some people. But it's, at first you go through this thing like, oh, nobody cares about me. That's awful. And then you're like, hey, nobody's really watching me or caring about me. I can kind of do stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's very liberating.
Yes.
After you get through the, oh, nobody cares about me. You know, it's like, nobody's watching you. Everybody's in their head doing their own stuff, you know? So like, once you really get okay with that, it really just empowers you to do so many things. Because it was like, I was like, will anybody remember this a week from now, a day from now, a year from now? Absolutely. 50 years from now? No, they won't. And you know, a lot of times you get stuck in your mess ups because like, oh, I messed up. Dude, I messed up so hardcore last year. I like blew up my entire life. And if anybody wants that story, they can come to me for it. But here I am. Instead of like, I got myself off my feet, and you know this because we talked. But I mean, you know, I got educated. I'm like starting to do a different you know, financial plan for my life, even though it's not quite there, but I see it right there, you know. So I could have buried myself in that mistake, but I didn't, you know, really, because I'm guided and I'm lucky, and everybody's got their higher power, or they don't, but they have something, right? And it's like, sometimes there's something in you that won't give up, right? So I have that hardcore, whether I like it or not. But what I'm trying to say is, don't worry about it. Just keep going, and then find out what you can do. Take something out of the ashes, look at what you still have, and keep moving and see what you got. Because, hey, the other thing is, like, I want to say this, because, all right, this is hardcore, but for people who are dealt with really deep depression, and they've reached that rock bottom moment, right? And everybody's going to do it at some point, I think. This is what I would tell you, is that we only have a very short time to exist as a human being, right? So when things feel like maybe checking out, and especially now, because it's very high pressure, we got so much hardcore things just at us all the time. And we're like, I don't know if I could take this. But what I keep saying is, I only have this time to be alive, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. We have literally eternity to experience what comes after us, right? So stay in there and then distract yourself or rest and then do something, even if it's something that is, it doesn't matter. Like for me, I just get into something that is consuming, like whether it's a game or whether it's a study or whether like you take a class or you just do something, and it's so that you can keep just be consumed by something else until you can get yourself into a spot where you're like, okay, I can take a breath and keep going and wait for the good things to happen. Because I have been through this so many times, people, and there is something always, there is a prize at the other side of the fire. So if you walk through the fire when it's given to you, I am almost willing to bet you anything that on the other side of you getting through that ordeal is something amazing. So just keep going until you get there. And then you'll be like, you know what? That was not cool. And I do not want to do that again, but this was worth it. This was worth hanging out for. This was worth happening. This made it worth it, you know? So it won't be easy, but it will be worth it, is something that I've been through some stuff, and I will write that down. That is, you can take that one to the bank. So that's my rambling for today. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Sophia. I know, like we spoke about it, as you mentioned, right? Like I'm aware of certain things, and you are really an example of really picking yourself up and just going. And what I noticed also on your journey, and I really want to commend you on that as well, is celebrating certain things, right? Stop reflecting. And that's amazing. That is so very important. It's important for our brain to feed it with like, hey, look what happened. Well done to me. Woo, let's keep it up, no matter how small it might seem, because all these right wins accumulate and you're getting more motivated and more and more and more and more and keep going, right? So really
one thing I learned from being a community advocate type person is that a lot of times, like, you have a big goal, right? And it's so weird. So a lot of times you feel like you're beating your head up against the wall, right? So you have to enjoy and embrace and really give yourself credit for the small wins, because that is what it's like food. Okay. It's like food. Like, you have to eat that or you will not make it till the end. You will, you will fall down. But it's so interesting that if you keep doing it and you keep like giving yourselves those little prizes and stuff, then what's amazing is when the other side just embraces your idea like it's their own, and it just happens. And it's almost like anticlimactic, because you've been pushing on this wall and pushing on this wall and pushing on this wall, and it hasn't moved. And then one day just like falls over. And then the people are like, oh yeah, we thought that all the time. Yeah, that was our idea the whole time. And you're like, okay, I don't care. I want the win. But it's just like, but okay, so as that kind of a person, if you don't deal with like long-term adversarial pressure, you'll never get there, right? So everybody's got that in their own work or in their own thing. It's like, you want that hard client, you want that, but you know, the big client, not the hard, you never want the hard client, let them go. But you want that prestigious client, you want that whatever you want, that person in your life that you are like working with in a marriage or something like that. Like, you want it to work. Like, sometimes it still takes work, because anytime you get two people in a room, takes work, because you know, not everybody agrees all the time. There's no way. And if they do, something's wrong, because then somebody's not telling you what they think. It's really hard to have somebody just totally agree all the time. So there's always going to be that back and forth. And you know, like when you do the little wins, then it gives you the power to keep going so that you don't crash. Because then you're worthless to you and your family and the people that count on you and everything. Like, if you crash, you're just worthless. Not that you know, you can't do anything. So just don't let don't let the turkeys get you down. Just keep going. So
at the end of the day, there are two choices, right? Like either to complain and blame and this and that, or all right, what happened, how can I go or like forward? What you mentioned before, internalize the power, not thinking about, oh, how the world is unfair, because it is to a certain degree very unfair, right? Let's bring it back to us and ask, what can I do? What is within my control? What is within my influence? What can I do today? Even the smallest step, and keep it up. And this is exactly what you have been doing. So really,
and it's also, what do you allow? What do you allow?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's hard because we really like to just blame somebody else, right? Yeah. Like, oh, it's your fault that this is happening, you know, but it's like, what am I allowing? How am I allowing this person to treat me this way? Am I allowing myself to be underpaid? Am I allowing myself to have my time stolen from me? You know, am I allowing my focus to be taken away on things that I don't really have to do? Like you brought a good point up about that, about like keeping your, being protective of your time and your, what do you really want to have happen? Because we only have a limited amount of time and energy and focus. And that's going to, again, coming back to like trying to be nice to everybody. It's like somebody's going to get their feelings hurt because you can have everything maybe, but you can't have it all at the same time.
Yeah.
So like, you're going to have to give something up. So I want this. What am I willing to give up to get it? You know? And then what is my priority now? And like, because everything we get, we have to give something up for, because we're only human and there's only a certain amount of time in the day. So like really taking that moment back, number one, to be very protective and discerning about who you hang out with. Because you know what? A lot of people they're just wasting your time. You know, it's like they're talking about stuff that, I don't know, like you have to decide what matters. But then, if you want to binge watch 20 hours of Netflix in a day, that's your choice. This is your life. But if you want to do something else, then you're going to have to not watch as much Netflix, right? Or not. And if you don't watch enough Netflix, then you're going to go to a party or you're going to be at the water cooler and you're not going to be able to say anything about it, right? And that's going to feel weird because we kind of step out of like the people that are doing one, I call it the prepackaged life, everything, they don't really make decisions. They're like, I did this because this is what works. Well, time is changing all the time. We really don't know what works or what doesn't. Like a lot of times they ask little kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was talking to my kids about this. It's like, I could never tell people what I was going to be when I grew up. There were no computers in 70. Yeah. In 1975, when they were asking me in kindergarten what I wanted to be when I grew up, there were no computers. So like, if you don't really have an answer about what do I want to be, maybe it wasn't invented yet. Maybe you're the one to invent it. Maybe you're creating this because it wasn't there yet, or maybe you're waiting for something to happen that is instrumental to your life. Because as soon as a computer was put in my life, it was like, that was an essential part of my being. It was like, I learned computers immediately. I learned social media as soon as social media hit. I was on Facebook and like Facebook was around for a little bit. I was there at 2007. That was pretty much like when it really started happening. So how was I supposed to know that I was going to be like, that social media was going to be such a big part of my life, or that all this stuff was going to happen? Because it hasn't happened yet. And also a lot of people are very solid about like, this is my future. Well, guess what? There's only now. Your future, no future for anyone has happened yet. It's just everybody's doing their best guess. So when they tell you anything, always know in your mind that everybody, when they're projecting into the future, they're just giving you their best guess, but nothing has been decided and everything is a negotiation. That's how I see it. Yeah. Like if we say that everything that happened in the past is, and the ones that benefited and get power from the past want you to believe that because they want to keep going. And hey, I respect the hustle. But the thing is, if we don't want that, if you don't like it because it doesn't serve you, then you have to say, hey, there's only now and the future. So what can I do a little bit differently? And how can I say, maybe that worked then, it doesn't work now? And what do you allow? Do you allow all of that? Because maybe you do, because, hey, that serves me. That's perfect. That's exactly what I need. Okay, great. Well, we're all kind of doing that. Yeah. But, it's like, but if it doesn't serve you and if it's not working and it's not what you need, then you can't accept that, oh, that's just the way it is. if you don't like it. If you like it, yeah, keep doing it.
No.
Absolutely. But if you don't like it, I think a lot of people just get stuck in, well, it's always been this way.
Yeah.
I've always just
Yeah.
had this really hard time, and I'm just a loser, and I can't do that. But it's like, yeah, but have you tried? Have you tried something new? Because like, what do you have to lose? If you're really a loser, as you say, like, what do you have to lose by just trying something different and seeing if that continues, right? But so many aren't willing to do that. And it's like, well, then, stop, have a little courage, And if you don't have courage, then I don't know, go talk to yourself about that. But that's not my problem.
Yeah.
If you don't have courage, that's not my problem, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm kind of getting to that. That was a new thing today that I'm finally getting to that point, But and the same thing with me. It's like, if I don't have the courage to pick myself up, then that's nobody else's problem either. So
yeah,
it's a hard truth, because we want to be okay. We want to make it somebody else's fault, and I have a teacher who's teaching me some really hard lessons too on a different kind of thing. I like watch them on YouTube and stuff, but they talk about that a lot. It's like, well, what did you do, or what did you do to change it? So it's like, yeah,
it ties us
it's
back
hard.
to the beginning.
It's hard.
Yeah, it ties us back to the beginning of the conversation, right? Like about taking control, taking this responsibility, ownership, right? And as you said, like, if nobody's gonna, like, if there is something that needs to be done, do it, right? Like, don't think about it, don't put it on someone else. You take action and do it, change it, right? It's
and learned helplessness is something that people should, maybe you could talk about that too with your upcoming stuff, because learned helplessness, I've noticed, is a very big thing. Like, people just, it's a lot of people seem to have it, and maybe you had I didn't have I mean, it comes from your upbringing. Sometimes it comes, if you dealt with a lot of bullies, or you dealt with a lot of something, and society does definitely target certain people for learned helplessness, and that is a real thing.
Yeah.
However, at some point you still have to not accept it. And maybe it's a little thing, maybe it's just a little thing, right? But I mean, I said, because like somebody told me, so Sophia, you can't make people feel bad about something that they don't want to feel bad about. I was like, well, yeah, I can't, but I can make them feel uncomfortable about it. Because a lot of times we just allow people to feel comfortable in their mistreatment of us or of others that we witness, right? So it's like, maybe I can't make you care. Yeah, that's your journey, but I don't have to sit here and make you feel happy and comfortable in your behavior that's making everyone else uncomfortable, So that's a choice too. And maybe that's the only choice you have, so maybe you don't get to choose what's, again, they say, and that's kind of overused, like, you can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose how you react to it. It's like, I get it, but I mean, you don't have to give them your power. You hold on to your power, and then you figure something else out. You keep going, like water. The water goes around the boulder, or it goes over the boulder, or it finds a way under the boulder. And if it keeps going, and sometimes it can't it's hitting the boulder for a really long time, but finally it wears a groove underneath the boulder, or it splits the boulder in half. It's like,
always finds the way. Always finds the way. Yeah.
So one drip at a time, folks. One drip at a time. That's how you change your life.
Yes,
and make it better.
100%. Sophia, so to there is a lot we've covered. Thank you for that. Wrap it up. For anyone who wants to connect with Sophia, obviously I'm going to put your link to your profile in the description of this video. Also, to wrap it up, I always ask, what can you give to the group? What can you ask from the group? Anything on your mind to wrap it up?
What do you guys want? It's like, let me know what you want. If you have something that you want advice about, I will give it to you, whether you like it or not. No, I'm just kidding. No, I will. I don't really know exactly what to say, but what do I need? I like support. I like a pep talk. That's something for free that everybody can give me. And then we'll kind of go from there. So when I see you in the group, I say hi. Some likes on my profile would be nice. I noticed that like a lot of people read my stuff, and not necessarily everybody in the group, because I know that they're not on there. But I noticed like on social media, a lot of people like read my stuff, but they don't interact. And interacting is social capital, and social capital matters. So if you like or share my stuff, that would be great. And also free and easy to do. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. We have to do volume 2 eventually.
Oh, okay, yeah, that.
Definitely. But for now, thank you very much. Sorry.
Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate all you do and all your wisdom. You're amazing. Thanks for your influence in my life and helping me through a super hard time that I really wasn't sure I was going to get through. So one day I will make it worth your while. I promise you.
You are making it, absolutely. With all my pleasure, Sophia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra.
Bye. Bye-bye.